Shabbat Shalom. When I was a kid, every New Year's Eve, I had this little tradition. I would write a letter to myself. Everything that happened that year, all the big stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, all my hopes for the new year, all my goals, my dreams. And I would seal it in an envelope and I'd hide it in my sock drawer. But first, before I wrote that letter, I would read the previous year's letter and just reflect on that year. And more so what I tried to do that year. What had I wanted to accomplish? Was I successful? Was I less successful? I'm the first to admit it, I was kind of a quirky kid. But you know, as the youth say these days, that tracks. That makes sense for me. I was quirky then, and I still kind of am. But you know what? I liked the ritual of it. I liked thinking about what capital P past Sarah, what she had thought was important. Sometimes I was amazed at what I had wanted. Sometimes I was amused. Sometimes I was confused. And sometimes I was disappointed that I had not accomplished what I'd wanted. But I was always resolute going into the new year that I was going to do things differently. But I think that's what New Year's does for all of us. It gives us a chance to reflect on who we were and who we are, who we want to be. A new year is a new opportunity to slough off the bad and increase the good. This is a fun fact, and I've sermonized on this before. In Judaism, we have 4 New Years. It's a lot of New Years. We love to party. One of those New Years is this very month. Coincides very purposefully with the holiday of Passover, which is coming up real soon. Obviously, our big New Year's is the main one in the fall, Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, all that stuff. That's a lot of fun. But this New Year we're celebrating right now is a little different. It marks the redemption of the children of Israel and the birth of the Jewish nation. Now, in Egypt, we were the enslaved descendants of our forefathers and mothers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. We were family. But we were not a people. Not yet. Not until after the Exodus from Egypt. And we stood at Sinai and we accepted the Torah, the Jewish laws and ways that help us become the most refined version of ourselves. Then we became a nation with a shared purpose and vision and goal, God's goal for us. So today, on the Shabbat before Passover, the holiday where we recall that redemption from slavery, that redemption that allowed us to become the Jewish people, today is a good day to think about that purpose and those goals, the vision that we and God have for ourselves. Who we were, and more importantly, who should we be? What should we do? It's not just a good day to do that. In fact, it's a great day. It's so great, in fact, that this very Shabbat is called Shabbat HaGadol. Shabbat is the day, and Gadol means great. Shabbat HaGadol. Great Shabbat. This is a great Shabbat, literally. It's actually a particularly great Shabbat. What makes it so great? Well, back in the day, some said that on Shabbat HaGadol, this Shabbat, the rabbi would give the longest sermon of the year. You want that? Any takers? I could stretch this out. So they call it Shabbat HaGadol, the shorthand for big old sermon Shabbat. I think that's a little cynical, and I will not be giving an extremely long sermon. You're welcome. I think, more likely, that the greatness of this great Shabbat is because of the stuff we've kind of covered so far. And it's a reference to the Haftarah, the selection of prophets that we add on to every weekly Torah reading. Today being a special Shabbat, we have a special Haftarah, special reading from the prophets. This week, the Haftarah, as Rabbi Morgan explained, comes from the book of Malachi. Malachi is speaking about Elijah the prophet, which fits for this time of year because Elijah plays a big role in Passover. Elijah's cup sits in our Seder table. We open the door for Elijah. Tradition says that Elijah visits every Jewish home to be a guest at their Seder. As a kid, my little brother's job, was to open the door for Elijah, and when we weren't looking, my dad would take a sip from the cup. So when we came back, we'd find the cup empty. Oh my gosh, it was Elijah. It was cute. Elijah plays a big role in Passover and in the Torah, the Haftarah we're reading today. In Malachi, Shabbat HaGadol, this reading, we're getting warned. Warning, Zichru Torat Moshe Avdi, be mindful of the teaching of my servant Moses, God says. meaning remember the Torah, the Jewish imperatives that exist to make us the best version of ourselves, which in turn makes this world the best version of itself for everyone. Yeah, or what, you may ask? What if I don't? Well, Malachi has an answer. God has an answer. Hinei anochi sholech lechem et Eliyahu hanavi, or I will send the prophet Elijah to you. If we don't improve ourselves the way we're supposed to, if we don't do what we are supposed to do, if we do not be who we are supposed to be, then Elijah's coming. Lifnei bo yom Adonai hagadol v'hanora, Malachi says, I will send the prophet Elijah to you before the coming of the Yom HaGadol, the great day. Another Shabbat HaGadol tie-in. The great, awesome, and mighty day of Adonai, God. Shabbat HaGadol is a great reminder that today is a Yom HaGadol. It is a great day to remember that our Jewish way of being, and to remember Elijah the prophet, because he plays into Passover Seder so much. And in another way too. On this part of Malachi that we read today, we remember Elijah is not like other prophets. No. Other prophets just yell at the people. They rail against the people. They say, you guys stink. You're bad. Your moral failings are so great. No. Elijah was a prophet of action. He led a grassroots rebellion, Elijah did, against the introduction of foreign gods to the people of Israel by our own ancient kings. Elijah's fight was against these individual self-interests, ancient leaders, personal feelings, becoming a sort of state religion, trying to impose that on us, the Jewish people. This was God's holy battle that Elijah was waging. And so Malachi is reminding us to remember that Zichru Torat Moshe, remember the Torah of Moses, Hinei anochi sholeach Eliyahu hanavi. God says, I will send Elijah the prophet to improve your ways. Or else the land will be struck with utter destruction. Meaning, if we do not remember our Torah, the Jewish laws and ways meant to refine our souls and to empower us to fight for good against those who would seek to put their own self-interest over our way of life and the lives of others, if that happens, God says, that will be destruction. That will be destruction for everyone. Today on Shabbat HaGadol, the Shabbat before Passover, when Elijah visits every home, we are meant to take stock of our lives, our values and dreams and goals, ask ourselves, what am I doing? What am I doing to make myself better, to make this world better, as God commands us to do? Elijah, who we remember during Passover, he fought against the imposition of leaders' personal religious agendas on the Jewish nation. We are supposed to uphold God's law. God's law is one of freedom, one of equality and diversity and love, not hate, love of all people. That is what our Holy Torah teaches. On today, this special Shabbat before the holiday of Pesach, we are commanded by God and our prophets to take stock, metaphorically, to read last year's letter to ourselves. Who were we? Who had we wanted to be? What needed to be accomplished? And to metaphorically write a letter to ourselves, who do we need to be this year? Who does the world need us to be this year as God's partner in the continual creation to make this a place where all of God's creatures are treated with grace and dignity? Everyone of every religion and race and sexuality and gender. That's our job. If we're not advancing that, we are making the world a less better place. We are contributing to the destruction of the world, not the building of it. If we do not do this, the prophet reminds us, if we do not work on ourselves and fight as Elijah did against those who would seek to impose their will over God's goodness, that is what is destructive. Our world might not look the way we want it to right now. And if you look around the world today, it probably doesn't look the way you want it to, like the way you need it to. But today on Shabbat HaGadol, we are reminded that the way it becomes the world that we need it to be is through us. It is through our actions. We are the ones who make this world what it needs to be. Let this Passover season give us pause to reflect on our lives and to energize us to better the lives of others, and in doing so, bring this world as close to perfection as it can never hope to be. Shabbat Shalom.
All right. Yeshkoach, Rabbi Ford, thank you very much for your word of Torah and helping us prepare for the upcoming holiday of Passover in just a few days.